Week 11 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few running backs I have as sleeper options this week. The first guy, Latavius Murray of the Baltimore Ravens. So Latavius Murray, he's been out all the way since week 6 versus the Chargers, and now Le'Veon Bell got released here by the Baltimore Ravens. And now I think it's going to be a split with Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray. But we know throughout Murray's career, he's the better short yardage runner than Freeman. So in this ball game with the Bears, I don't expect a huge game out of him. They give up the ninth the least amount of fantasy points to running backs on the season, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Latavius Murray have maybe 40 or 50 total yards in this one and find the end zone. And he's available right now in 68% of fantasy leagues, so he's practiced and he's ready to go, I think, this week, or they wouldn't have cut Le'Veon Bell. The next running back I have is a sleeper option here, Salvin Ahmed of the Miami Dolphins. So Ahmed, he hasn't done much this season. I'm not going to say he's been good at all, really, behind Myles Gaskin, but he really hasn't gotten much opportunity. Last season, when he had an opportunity for a 3 or 4 game string of games here, he was pretty good as Ahmed. On the season here, it just hasn't done much, though, this year as Ahmed. 41 carries, 109 rushing yards, and 11 catches for 108 yards. So right here, the last few games, nothing he's done is Ahmed. Week 8 at Buffalo, 7 carries, 22 yards, a catch for 6 yards. Week 9 versus Houston, 4 carries, 6 yards. And Week 10 versus Baltimore, 2 carries, 6 yards, a catch for 9 yards. But this week here, I mentioned him as a guy as a sleeper option because he has a great matchup at the Jets that give up the most fantasy points to running backs on the season. And let's be honest, Myles Gaskins, besides a few ball games this season, he really hasn't done much either for fantasy owners. And with the good matchup at the New York Jets, I think he could get things going here as Ahmed if he gets maybe anywhere from 8 to 12 carries. So if this game could get out of hand or Gaskin gets hurt, I think Ahmed could be a decent sleeper option this week. And the third and final running back I have as a sleeper option this week, Anta Foreman of the Tennessee Titans. So Foreman, he's been added in a whopping 50% of fantasy leagues, and I mentioned him as a waiver wire add early in the week, but right now he outtouched Adrian Peterson in Week 10's victory. Was Foreman. He's the better running back at this point in his career. He's more physical. He's younger. Jeremy Mcnichols, he's missed practice this week with a concussion. And Foreman here wouldn't surprise me if he gets anywhere from 10 to 15 fantasy points, especially if he's going to be a goal line back. So the last 2 games for him since he signed with Tennessee, Week 9 at the Rams, 5 carries, 29 yards. And Week 10 versus the New Orleans Saints, 11 carries, 30 yards, and 2 catches for 48 yards. So it was good to see him catch a couple balls out of the backfield as well. And he's got a great matchup here in Week 11 versus the Houston Texans that give up the 10th most fantasy points to running backs on the season. So right here, I think Foreman has a good ball game once again. And like I mentioned, if he gets 30 or 40 total yards and finds the end zone, that's not bad for a number 2 running back or flex option. 2 running back sleepers I have here for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.